So our first aim in these negotiations was to get new protections for countries like ours, which are in the single market but not in the euro. Let me take you through what we've secured. We have permanently protected the pound and our right to keep it. For the first time, the EU has explicitly acknowledged that it has more than one currency. Responsibility for supervising the financial stability of the UK remains in the hands of the Bank of England, so we continue to keep our taxpayers and our savers safe. We've ensured that British taxpayers will never be made to bail out countries in the Eurozone. We've ensured that the UK's economic interests are protected. We've made sure that the Eurozone cannot act as a bloc to undermine the integrity of the free trade single market. And we've guaranteed that British business will never face any discrimination for being outside the Eurozone. For example, our financial services firms can never be forced to relocate inside the Eurozone if they want to trade in euros, just because they're based in the UK. And not only are these rules set out in a legally binding agreement, we've also agreed that should the UK or another non-Euro member state fear that the rules are being broken, they can activate an emergency safeguard unilaterally to ensure that these rules are enforced. Let me be clear, because there has been debate about this. Britain will have the power to pull this lever on our own. Our second aim in these negotiations was to make Europe more competitive, so we create jobs and make British families more financially secure. We've secured a declaration outlining a number of commitments in this area. For the first time, the European Union will now say that competitiveness is, and I quote, an essential objective of the Union. This is important because it goes to the very heart of what Europe should be about. It means Europe will complete the single market in services. This will make it easier for service-based companies like IT firms to trade in Europe. Nowhere will this be more of an opportunity than in the United Kingdom, where thousands of service companies make up 2/3 of our whole economy. It could add up to 2% to our economy each year. That is a real improvement. The European Union will also complete the single market in capital. This will mean UK startups will be able to access more sources of finance for their business, and it will also present new opportunities for the UK financial services industry. Europe will now also complete the single market in energy. This will allow more suppliers into the UK energy market, lowering bills and increasing investment across the continent. That is a real improvement too. In addition, we've secured commitments from Europe to complete trade and investment agreements with the fastest growing and most dynamic economies around the world.
We will leave David Cameron there as he continues to give details of the deal that has been agreed unanimously in Brussels tonight. So let's go back to Downing Street and Laura Koonsberg. A big political moment. From what you've heard, what is your assessment? Has he got enough?
Well, Sophie, there's no question in the coming months there is going to be intensely fierce scrutiny on every single part of what David Cameron has only just begun to lay out tonight. But in terms of his big picture, politically, no question, what Downing Street will be most pleased about is the ability, as he said there, to end a something-for-nothing culture for EU migrants who come here and then have access to our benefit system. That is politically crucial and something that many Conservative MPs had been looking for. Also there, that exemption for the UK to the fundamental, what had been a fundamental European Union principle, that countries would move closer and closer together, become more and more alike. And of course there also, he mentioned, protections for the City of London and British business from what's going on in the Eurozone. But overall, I think we heard there this central motif of what he'll say again and again in his campaign. The approach will be, we should be in a Europe where it's live and let live. The Britain can pick the bits of Europe that it likes and leave aside the bits of Europe that it does not. But before too long, this campaign will move away from some of the details of those deals. It will move on to how people, politicians and the public feel in their gut about the European Union. And it's there that he will have a very intense fight on his hands, not least inside his own cabinet, inside his own political party. And a disappointment from Downing Street tonight that Michael Gove, his close colleague, will campaign to leave the EU. But even before he got to his feet, here in London tonight, the campaign to leave was well underway.
The ink isn't quite dry on the deal. But the referendum campaign, well, it's begun.
I think the real show tonight isn't in Brussels, but it's here in Westminster.
More than 1,000 people, standing room only, packed into a Westminster hall tonight, getting down to their business, persuading you to leave the EU.
Turnout tonight is above the fire limit. There are people locked out of the building because we can't get any more in. It tells you what the public view of this issue is.
And the BBC's been told this man will be joining their ranks. He wears the black and gold of the Lord Chancellor. He's the Justice Secretary, a senior figure in government.
Mr Gove, are you going to back the Prime Minister on the European Union?
Michael Gove is not confirming or denying he will campaign to leave. Officially, still tight-lipped, ruling nothing out. Number 10 says he's not yet told the Prime Minister what he'll do.
Lovely to see you.
But there have been whispers for weeks he'll take the opposite view, even though he and David Cameron are confidants, like their wives, family, friends, set to be on opposing sides.
If it's such a good deal, why are senior figures unconvinced?
I think there are some people who have always been opposed to our membership of the European Union, and they are able to take that stance if they want to, just as there are some who would stay in the EU at any price. But I believe most of us want to see a reformed European Union.
Come off the fence today.
How are you doing? How are you doing?
But could he join Mr Gove? As soon as the Cabinet has met, probably at 9 in the morning, ministers are allowed to go public if they want to leave the EU. So will Boris Johnson, who's discussed it with Mr Gove this week, become an official outer? But keeping those different views politely in the party will take some doing. Gove's expected support is a coup for those who want to leave. The campaigns have yet to find a big Conservative hitter.
I feel very, very heartened by it, I must say, and many more.
I'll tell you who I'd like to see up front of the campaign, Nigel Farage.
They're all crawling out from under their rocks at last.
Many of the people in this room have waited years for this chance, this real chance to leave the EU. It matters to them who is on the platform, which Conservative ministers are prepared to break with David Cameron and oppose him and campaign to go.
But the campaigns on both sides may feature some surprising figures, certainly those from different political parties.
Comrades and friends.
What matters will be how and if they appeal to you.